idea for the show.
I still don't know what the idea is.
It's about nothing.
Right.
Everybody's doing something. We'll do nothing.
They say, what's your show about? I say nothing.
There you go.
I think you may have something here.
Cross Coast Bias presents the League About Nothing podcast.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We have our Week 3 recap show for you. The NFL has finally figured out how to score. We were close to 200 points on our median this week. What do you think?
Well, some of us figured out how to score finally.
I said the NFL, not us. Just because the players are scoring doesn't mean we have them on the proper rosters. All right, so before we get to our weekly breakdown, we're going to start off the same way we usually do. Trades, waivers, injuries. Let's jump into the trades first this week. We had 3 trades since we've last been with you. Nothing particularly groundbreaking. We had a trade between Mel and Flinch, where Mel received Flinch's 2025 third round pick, and Flinch received Josh Reynolds and Lil Jordan Humphrey.
How dare you disparage championship winning Lil Jordan Humphreys? He was a key cog to a championship win last year.
Did he make the starting lineup?
I think he did. I know he scored a touchdown.
All right. Then I stand corrected. Blockbuster trade for Flinch acquiring Lil Jordan Humphrey, who Mel acquired several days before for $0 waiver claims.
Hey, Lil Jordan played the most snaps of any receiver this week in Denver.
What is going on there? The running back room makes no sense. The wide receiver room makes no sense. The tight end room makes no sense. Dulcich, I don't think, has scored points at all this year.
He didn't play very much this week. They're still trying to figure out that rotation at all positions. We saw a lot of Lil Jordan. We saw a lot of Tyler Batty.
It's good for Lil Jordan, who keeps getting elevated from the price. I don't know how they managed to keep elevating him. Eventually, he's just going to have to stay on the roster.
Right. You can only elevate him so many times, and then you have to sign him to the active roster. So he may be out of elevations.
I'm pretty sure we're already at 2 elevations 3 weeks in. So if he's playing that many snaps, surely you want him on the team, right?
You would think you would want that guy on the active roster. But week 1, we saw Devon Vale lead the team in targets and receptions, and he's been healthy scratched ever since. So I don't know that they know what they're doing in Denver right now.
None of the rest of us do. So.
Sean Payton forever.
Oh, man. Well, this is a pretty nothing trade in terms of high impact, but everybody needs depth. A couple pieces for Flinch, and we've talked about it before. He's got those really strong running backs, but the wide receiver room is a little bit lacking. So this helps him a little bit there.
He needed wide receiver depth. This gave him a couple of options. Reynolds has been playing pretty heavy snaps, and we've seen Lil Jordan this week for sure played the most snaps. So hey, bodies are bodies. Yep. Anytime you can get 2 for 1 in a league this deep, 2 guys that are actually playing regularly.
And the third round pick is fairly low stakes.
Right. He's currently the number 1 team, the only undefeated team.
Yeah, he's 6-0, the only team in the league 6-0.
So
a very impressive start.
At this point, we've got to project that as a very late third.
Yeah, exactly.
So a good trade, and a good trade for Mel to get some value for guys that he probably didn't care about and would
that he literally got off the scrap heap a couple days earlier for $0 fab. Yeah,
right.
Reynolds was the real acquisition there, but still.
Yeah, Reynolds he's been a useful depth piece for many years. He pops up for startable games every once in a while. I mean, that's fine. Yeah. What do you expect from a third round pick?
No, if you got that kind of production from your actual third round pick, you'd be happy.
Right.
All right, we're going to move on to our next trade, I should say. Trade between Big and Criddle. Big picked up Kenny McIntosh, and Criddle got Britton Covey. Is it Covey? I think it's Covey. and Eric Saubert.
Does it matter because
Albert?
he's
Again.
already on IR.
Yeah, he's literally already. I lasted half a game after that.
None of these
Yeah,
players did anything this week.
No, this
Sauber was only out there because Kittle was hurt and he did nothing with his opportunities. Covey was out there because everyone else is hurt and then he got hurt as well. So that's the end of that fun story that lasted about a week.
well,
And then,
I pointed out in the last one. that
McIntosh didn't play at all, really. I mean, he's
Yeah,
playing
no, he
like 2% of snaps while Walker's hurt. It's all Charbonnet.
I think a lot of people were on the hey, Charbonnet's underlying numbers are pretty bad. Maybe he'll lose playing time bandwagon. So it makes sense for Big to hedge your bets there, and maybe McIntosh will do something good when he gets his opportunities.
Yeah, I think that's probably a long shot. I was surprised that Kenny McIntosh got drafted. So not expecting him to jump in and take over that job.
No, probably not. So I mentioned in the last one that Mel had picked up Lil Jordan Humphrey for $0 fab a couple days earlier. In this one, it's worth noting that Big picked up Saubert also the same day, also on waivers, also uncontested, but he actually paid 9 fab for him.
Oh, there you go. We'll get into those hot waiver pickups shortly.
Yeah, we probably should have done the waivers first, but I wanted to get into the trades. I don't know. The trades are more entertaining to me than the waivers. The waivers are very
yeah, these trades for sure. I mean, we
the
got
waivers are boring in our league. There's no one on waivers 90% of the time. You excited to talk about Snoop Huntley?
more excited than I am to talk about Eric Saubert, Brittany Covey, and Kenny McIntosh, little Jordan Humphrey. Let's get to the only trade that actually mattered this week, please.
All right. It was a trade between Flea and myself. I sold J.K. Dobbins to Flea. Flea sent her 2027 second round pick.
There we go. Finally, a trade that mattered.
Oh. How dare you besmirch little Jordan Humphrey like this?
He's no J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah. So this one's pretty straightforward. Flea is a contending team. I am not. The running back depth doesn't matter nearly as much to me as it does to her. And she's looking at a 2027 pick thinking,
who cares?
She's
2027.
She's in a championship window right now in 2024. So what's the point of holding that pick 3 years in the future?
Nobody cares about 2027 picks. As if you're a contender trying to win now, give me the production. J.K. Dobbins has been very good, and he's been playing more and more of the snaps every week. He's basically phased Gus out, and he's been highly productive.
Yep. He had a tough week this week, but I think that was more product of the team around him having an awful week and Herbert getting hurt and other factors rather than his own play.
But even then, he had his highest snap share of the season.
Yeah. Oh, no, he got the work. He just didn't do as much with it as he had the previous couple.
Right, but that's what you're looking for from running backs. Guys that are getting 80% snap share are few and far between. Certainly worth a second-round pick for as long as he can stay on the field, which obviously is the biggest downside with Dobbins. But
and I hope he lasts. I really do. I enjoy watching
his story. He'll be a cinch for the comeback player of the year if he can make it through the season.
Well, you say that, but they give it to a quarterback more often than not.
We'll see if he can maintain the production and health.
Let's hop over to those waivers that we teased before. There was really only one player that got any serious bidding. That was Tyler Huntley.
Was the only person that got a second bid?
Well, no, we'll get to that in a minute, though. I don't want to spoil that surprise, but we'll get there. Tyler Huntley went for $21 to you.
Yes.
It was there was some other pretty good bids on that.
It was an act of desperation.
Sure. You were down to 4 quarterbacks. You needed to get, or 3 quarterbacks. You needed to get back up to 4. You bid 21, Big bid 19, Mr. Good News 17, Rug 6, Judd 1, Flinch 0. So there was 6 players, or 6 managers, I should say, vying for Huntley's services, and you, Big, and Mr. Good News were all fairly close in that range.
Well, my thought was that they signed him to the practice squad, and Skylar Thompson is not good And the only other quarterback they had on the roster or practice squad was Tim Boyle, who may be the worst quarterback to ever start multiple games over multiple years in
This
the
is
NFL.
Nathan Peterman erasure, and I will not stand for it.
All right. Do me a favor and Google Tim Boyle's college stats and let me know
I know
that
his
this
college
man should
stat
have
line. I
ever
remember he's got
made
more
it
interceptions.
to
Yeah, I
NFL.
know. Look, Peterman has had worse NFL showings than Boyle.
I don't know. I have to go look up the stats.
The man threw 4 interceptions and a half. It has somehow been on like 6 teams since then.
There's a lot of bad quarterbacks. Anyway, Snoop Hunley is a former Pro Bowler, so he's clearly not a bad quarterback. So that's why I paid 21 fab to get him on my roster.
Is that accurate?
He can't be bad if he went to the Pro Bowl. That's a fact.
That sounds wrong, but I don't know enough about the Pro Bowl to dispute it. Tyler Huntley on your team. Maybe he, not to step on the injury section, but Skylar Thompson hurt this week. He hurt his ribs, so we're going to see either Huntley or Boyle this
Hurry
week.
up and learn that offense because nobody wants to see Tim Boyle.
I'm sure that
this
is not what Miami was hoping for this year.
Tim Boyle's family is rooting for him not to play.
Well, that's the thing. As long as he doesn't have to play, he can keep cashing those checks.
Right, exactly.
The more they see him play, the less likely he is to get another contract.
Exactly.
On to other waivers. We mentioned before Eric Saubert, however you say his name, $9 uncontested to big. Criddle spent $3 on Ronnie Bell. God, this is awful. I hate our waivers. You did ask, was that the only player who had more than one bid? No. Following in your footsteps, 3 players placed claims on Braxton Berrios. Judd was the lucky winner at $0.
There's no one else.
Beating out Mr. Good News and Mel, who also bid $0.
No one else had multiple bids with actual fab involved. That's all you need to know.
I really just wanted to mention that Braxton Berrios got bid on again.
He gets
because of the time that you spent like $40 on him inexplicably.
Every time he's dropped, he gets a bunch of bids to get picked back up, and then he doesn't do anything. He gets dropped again.
At least these were $0 bids.
This is like when they build a Starbucks across the street from another Starbucks.
Do they do that sort of thing?
Yeah,
Over here, it's Dunkin' Donuts across the street from Dunkin' Donuts.
Spend all day in Dunkin' Donuts, walk outside, and go, "Oh, look at Dunkin' Donuts." That is Braxton Berrios. All of these people are bidding on him have had Braxton Berrios on their rosters before. They know the deal.
Probably. He's made the rounds. All right. There were a couple other waiver claims. They were all $0. We're not getting into them now.
Nobody cares.
No one scored points. No one's even on a roster anymore. We're going to move on to the injuries, where hopefully we do better this week than we did last week in remembering who was actually injured.
Try to cover at least half of them.
Maybe. Possibly. All right. So we usually start at quarterback. Let's start there. We just mentioned Skylar Thompson hurt his ribs, is likely out for some time. Obviously, he was the backup to Tua. We're down to third string / fourth string / street free agents. I mean,
that got really bad really quickly.
Yeah. No, they scored 3 points this week, though, so it's okay.
Just
nowhere to go but up.
It's like a sinking ship pulling down all of the potentially useful fantasy players.
I would not want to be relying on anyone in that offense. I guess H&H's still going to get enough short yardage stuff and all the rushing carries if Mostert's still hurt. But
yeah, he had a carry or a target on more than half of the snaps this week for Miami.
That's that man is not built for that.
Oh, yeah. I don't know how long he's going to make it 30 opportunities a week, but hey, it's fun right now.
Well, he's just at some point going to explode. And I don't mean like explode for fantasy points. I mean, he's literally just going to die on the field. All right. One other injury at quarterback, worth mentioning anyways. Herbert re-aggravated his ankle. It's a high ankle sprain. He got hurt. He got hurt again.
Not a fun season for Justin Herbert.
Not so far, no.
He's been banged up since the preseason. Continues to be banged up. Yeah, we got to see some Taylor Heineke this week. That's always fun.
Yeah, I mean, he's better than who was it last year? Easton Stick?
Right. He beat out Easton Stick for the backup job. We weren't sure who was actually going to be the backup until Heineke went in there.
I mean, that's not really close. We've seen both of those guys play. Heineke is not a good quarterback, but is light years ahead of Stick.
Right. They're both bad. This is the problem. There's not enough good starting quarterbacks to go around. Never mind the backups. When you get to the backups, it's not great for fantasy.
There are some backups who you could throw out there and run a functional offense with. Jameis is out there. Flacco we saw last year. There are guys.
We saw Andy Dalton this week.
Jimmy Garoppolo's out there. He could run a functional offense. He's not going to win games for you, but if you've got the pieces around him, he'd be fine.
Is his suspension over now?
Yeah, he's been reinstated. There are some backups who are better than the backups that are playing right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, that happens. We saw it last year.
Yeah. Well, last year we saw literally every backup play.
And even the guys that are serviceable tend to get exposed if they're out there for too many weeks in a row.
That's true.
No idea what's going to happen to Justin Herbert. It's a high ankle sprain, which normally knocks players out, but he's one of the toughest players in the league. So we'll see if he tries to play through it. I would not put it past him.
No, I'm sure he'll give it a try. It just remains to be seen if he's able to. At the wide receiver position, fewer injuries than we've had the last couple weeks, but still a couple. Devontae Smith with a concussion. He's in the concussion protocol. Tough hit in that Saints game. Yeah, I know the Philly fans were rightfully upset about that one.
Yeah, that was an ugly one. You never like to see that.
No.
And yeah, I mean, no point speculating how long he's going to be out. We have no idea. Concussions are different for every concussion for every player. So all we know now is he's in protocol.
Hopefully he's okay and we see him back soon. Other wide receiver, Adam Thielen, injured his hamstring. He's already been placed on IR.
Right. We know for sure he's out at least 4 weeks.
Yep. So, I mean, Thielen wasn't doing a lot with Bryce Young in there, but was having a pretty solid first half with Andy Dalton.
No one was doing a lot with Bryce Young out there. Let's be fair.
Not wrong.
That's not an Adam Thielen problem.
Yes, this is accurate. But it's unfortunate that we basically only got one half of Adam Thielen.
Yeah, and he got hurt scoring a touchdown.
It was a nice catch too.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but they drafted a few young receivers in the last couple of years, between Mingo and Leggett. So we're going to have to see if those guys can step up and fill a role now that they can actually, use the forward pass as part of the game plan.
It's an opportunity for those guys.
It's going to be 25 targets for Deontay Johnson.
He's on the team that you and I co-manage. I wouldn't argue with that.
Yeah, it looked like he was going to be riding the pine until Andy Dalton took over.
And who expected that? Just the Andy Dalton explosion as soon as he got in.
I mean, it happened last year.
That's true, but last year it was early season against the Seahawks, who were at that point historically bad.
This is what Andy Dalton does, and then look awful.
And then the only other good passing game they had last year was Bryce Young against the Packers, who at that point were also historically bad. But that was at the end of the season.
Yeah,
I think I paid too much attention to the Panthers.
Probably. Any attention is probably too much.
All right, let's move on. Some running back injuries. Austin Eckler left the game with a concussion on Monday night. They say he's in the concussion protocol. Same thing as Smith.
Right.
Hope he's okay. We don't know.
He was having a big game too. Had a couple of nice long runs. Had a big kick return. He had his fingerprints all over this game until he went out. Him and Brian Robinson were basically splitting the backfield, both on the field at the same time.
it's looking like physically he was just hurt last year and not toast.
Yep.
As people were speculating.
It's good to see him back
Yeah.
closer to good Austin Eckler versus last year Austin Eckler. The league is better with good Austin Eckler.
That's accurate. It is.
So hopefully we can get back out there quickly.
Tough week for the Steelers running backs.
All of the Steelers running backs.
Najee Harris hurt his shoulder. Warren hurt his knee. So we'll have to watch both of those and get ready for Patterson.
For Daryl Patterson time. Arthur Smith is licking his chops.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a weird situation. Mike Tomlin said he pulled Jaylen Warren out of the game because he didn't look right when he was running. And then Najee Harris seemed to play the whole game and then was in a sling after. So supposedly Najee's okay and they're not worried about him missing any time. But not the same with Jaylen Warren. Still to be determined, getting some imaging done on his knee, trying to see what's going on with him.
Yeah, Warren's been banged up since training camp, essentially. He hasn't really seemed to ever fully recover, which is probably contributing to, one thing after the other.
Right. Yeah. Tends to happen. The body overcompensates in one area and you hurt something else.
All right, and a couple tight ends before we move on. We had Trey McBride with a concussion. Feel like just copy and paste what we said for Smith and Eckler.
Exactly.
Yeah. And also Sam Laporta, right ankle. He hurt his right ankle on a blocking play. Actually, he got rolled up on a little bit. So that's not fun.
It's a low ankle sprain, the lowest of low ankles, according to Coach Dan Campbell. And he came back out and played a little bit. He just kind of rotated out a lot more than we're used to. So we'll see if he misses any time.
He came back and then almost immediately went back out again, like took himself out. So it wasn't one of those like he came back and
and I
played a lot.
I think the fact that they have a bye week 5 means it's probably more likely that he sits this week. Just give him 2 weeks off.
Yeah, that would make the most sense. But football coaches and players don't always do things that make sense.
Right.
All right, so those are the injuries. Hopefully we didn't miss nearly as much this week as we did last week. We will find out as we go.
It would be difficult to do that.
All right, let's get to the matchups. Our league median score this week was 198.56. We're moving up every week. We're trending. We had 180, 185, 198. We're going in the right direction here.
Yeah, some of us are going in the right direction.
Hey, you won. All right, so our highest scoring team this week was Flinch. Flinch put up 272.72 points, and he beat my team. I put up a 187.92. It's worth noting that this is the third week in a row I have been the number, and we are only 3 weeks into the season. I have been the number 7 scoring team, been that first team below the median.
I'm definitely
I'm very consistent.
Settled into your slot here.
Well, we talked about it in the season preview stuff. This is kind of where I expected to be, somewhere in that 4, 5, 6 range, or not 4, 5, 6. I should say 7, 8, 9. I meant 4, 5, 6 of the teams that weren't going to make the playoffs.
Right.
So the top of that bracket, But anyway, let's take a look at what Flinch did to put up that top score.
He did everything. His team exploded this week.
Buttons. Yeah, big games from Lamar, Kyron, Derrick Henry. That's an interesting tandem right there. It's good for him when he gets a big Lamar game and a big Derrick Henry game, but I don't imagine we're going to see a lot of those two having big games together.
Right. The Ravens only threw 15 passes in this game. But it helps when your quarterback can run for 87 yards and a touchdown as well. It usually supplements the scoring nicely.
Just a little. Huge game from Rashee Rice. Huge game from Cole Kmet, who and by we, I mean I was concerned about last week. Yeah. Answered those concerns in a big way.
Concerns no more. There was no timeshare in this matchup. Kmet played all of the passing downs, basically. And he put up a career high in receptions and second most yards of his career. He had a monster game. It helps when the Bears ran 90 offensive plays.
Well, it also helps like when you as a team go, hey, maybe we should use the young talented guy we're paying a whole bunch of money as opposed to the old busted guy who's on a cheap veteran contract.
Well, like we said, teams don't always do the right thing.
They really don't. It does not make a lot of sense.
But yeah, he had production up and down the lineup. Even newly acquired Lil Jordan Humphrey made the lineup this week. He had a third tight end. Bretton Strange caught a touchdown, filling in for Ingram again.
Yeah, Dalton Kincaid is his other tight end in his first spot. Strange in that flex spot. Brees Hall almost 20 points. Just Terry McLaurin caught that one really long touchdown pass. That was a really nice play. I texted you while that play was happening, and that was a nice play. I just really enjoyed that throw.
Yep. Yeah, and he did all this without one of his better, more consistent players, Devontae Adams, not even making his lineup. So he still had a huge week.
Nothing from Ramondre Stevenson out there either, who's been in his lineup the other weeks. Other side of things, decent day from a few players on my team. Ferguson, nice to see him back doing well. Patrick Mahomes was okay. Bo Nix was my number one quarterback. Juwan Jennings, 51 points. Typical stuff.
I was waiting for that. I was like, where's Juwan Jennings? He went nuclear.
Juwan.
One of the highest scores, individual player scores since this league has existed.
I texted you. He was less than a point off of breaking into our league's all-time top 10. If he caught one more pass for 0 yards, he'd be in the all-time top 10 scores. 51.25, 11 catches, 175 yards, 3 touchdowns. Somehow, only 4 first downs. I guess when 3 of them are touchdowns, you're limited in how many first downs you can get.
Well, if anybody could see this coming, it was definitely you.
Literally last week.
You've been hyping him up for about 10 years now.
On our show, I said it's with all the other guys out, it's Juwan season or whatever. You said it always has been. You were not wrong, nor was I. I feel confident that no one was more confident in Juwan Jennings than I was.
It was a pretty good week for Mr. Juwan Jennings. We don't need to tell you that it was a career high across the board. You probably already knew that.
I would also like to direct your attention back to our season preview pod, or I don't even remember if it was that one or before that, where I mentioned that Jennings is the player who was drafted the latest in our league that is still consecutively rostered by the team that drafted him.
Right.
He was my 36th round startup pick, and he's been on my team the entire time, which I'm pretty sure is the most by like 5 or 6 rounds, maybe more. I haven't gone back and checked that since. And at the time, you criticized me for having him on the roster. I would just like to take my victory lap.
Well, on weeks that Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel are all out and injured.
There we go.
You may be a useful beast to have on your team.
And let that be a lesson
this week.
Other than Juwan Jennings having a career day, not a whole lot of good stuff from my team. Just all okay performances.
I mean, you got 4 tight ends in your lineup, so that's an accomplishment. Some people don't have 4 tight ends on their roster.
Yep. My week 1 waiver darling Julian Hill shows up with a 6.9 points, 2 catches, 24 yards, 2 first downs.
And you had 4 tight ends without Isaiah Likely, week 1 hero in your lineup.
Yeah, it's
4 other tight ends.
It's the kind of lineup that you want in this league. It would be nice if anyone other than Ferguson had scored more than 11 points, though.
Right. Well, some of these guys were in here because you didn't have anyone else that scored any points.
Yep, that seems to be a problem these days. My running back 2 this week. Did you notice this one? Isaac Guerrero?
Guerrero, yeah. With his
1.9 points, 5 carries, 19 yards.
This is a beautiful 0 running back build.
Well, it's more zero running back now that I traded away Dobbins.
Right. J.K. Dobbins was carrying that position for you.
Dowdle, you're on notice. So
Keep scoring points. He won't be long for this roster.
He will not be. Although no one's come knocking yet. So everyone out there in the league, you want Dowdle, start making those offers. Our number 2 highest scoring team this week was the Commissioner. Melchris put up a 259.11. He beat out Georgia Mike, who put up a 209.20. So Georgia Mike gets that bonus win. At least he got the win over the median. He goes 1-1 on the week. Both these teams are 4-2 right now. Georgia Mike having a strong early start here.
This was a heavyweight fight.
Yeah.
Both teams over 200. This was a good matchup. Not one that we were expecting, but Georgia Mike continues to defy preseason expectations.
His team has been very good, although I find it strange that I'm pretty sure he's had Malik Willis as his number one quarterback the last 2 weeks running.
It's all thanks to Malik Willis. I was just about to say that. Malik Willis,
at what point
quarterback
do you accept that Malik Willis is apparently now a good fantasy quarterback?
Well, okay, fantasy maybe. Yeah, I will not accept the fact that he's a good quarterback.
No, I'm not proposing that.
I also don't think that he's going to be a good fantasy quarterback. He may have scored points this week, but it's tough to live on the the way that he's been schemed around for fantasy production. He did, again, run for 73 yards and a touchdown. So when you do that, it really helps your bottom line. Run for a bunch of yards and score. Don't turn the ball over. You'll have a good score in this league because we're heavily penalized for sacks and interceptions and fumbles and things like that.
He took 3 sacks. That's the thing. And he still put up 25.
3 sacks is basically 0 for Malik Willis.
That's true.
This is Malik Willis we're talking about.
He
has it in his range of outcomes to have like 12 sacks taken in a game.
I'm wildly impressed with what LaFleur has been able to do the last couple of weeks.
He has found a way to make him look like a serviceable quarterback. And they're winning games.
They've won both of his starts.
Right. Incredible. This is, a guy that we left for dead very clearly.
I think we were justified in that. But
agreed.
Let's talk about Mel's team a little bit here. So the difference between the scores in these two teams was essentially that Georgia Mike's big scores were in the mid-20s. And on the other side of things, Mel had a couple of those guys in the 30 range. Josh Allen, his QB1 leading the way, 36 points. Welcome back, Jamar Chase, 32 points. About time. 2 touchdowns on the day.
Seriously. It's amazing what happens when T. Higgins comes back and they can move Chase around the formation, play him in the slot a little bit, not just let him be out on an island getting double covered and safety over the top help and not be able to do anything. Bengals head coach, not the most creative play caller. No. Mr. Zach Taylor.
The second worst Taylor play caller in the league.
Behind Press Taylor.
And there better not be any others that I'm forgetting. I don't think there are.
There's a lot of bad play callers.
I don't think any of the rest of them are named Taylor, though. Well, we did hear that Taylor Swift was drawing up plays for Travis Kelce, right? That one made the broadcast.
Is that why hasn't broken 35 yards this year?
Sorry, shouldn't have brought that up yet. We'll get to him when we get to your roster.
Oh, God.
All right, 30 points from Deontay Johnson. We mentioned Andy Dalton earlier. 14 targets in his direction. Couple big scores at tight end for Mel. Tyler Conklin, 20 points. Noah Fant, 18 points. Kyle Pitts up there at 10 points. Only 2 catches. One really long 50-yarder that got stopped, 2 yards shy of a touchdown. That was a tough one.
Yeah, it doesn't take much to get in the lineup at tight end in this league.
Nope. Speaking of, on the other side of things, Colby Parkinson, 7.85, and Austin Hooper, 4.15 at tight end for Georgia Mike. Tough.
Yeah, that's
tough there.
That's really what held him back this week. I mean, he still would have beaten a bunch of teams, but just didn't have enough players to fill out the roster with enough kind of baseline scores to get past Mel, who just had a monster week again.
Yeah. Outside of the tight ends, he actually had higher scores in his lower flex spots than Mel did. It just those tight ends being 15 points shy of the counterparts on the other side of things, and the 26-point days from his big guys like Charbonnet and Odunze, who had nice games, and apparently Trey Tucker, who knew, also 25.85. Just slightly short of those big 36-point games on the other side.
Yeah, and he's still missing another running back, really, behind Charbonnet. He doesn't have much.
Yeah, that's true. Sermon, I got a touchdown, but basically did nothing else outside of that.
Right, he touched the ball 2 times. One of them happened to fall in the end zone, so he got in the starting lineup. But yeah, he's not really built to win this year. I mean, he can change that. He can make moves. But yeah, this is still obviously a work in progress roster. But the fact that he's able to put up a 209, even with a bunch of holes on the roster, definitely gives you hope going forward.
What I'm hearing you say is that he should extend an offer for one Rico Dowdle.
Yeah, Rico Dowdle would probably be an every week starter for him.
We didn't mention them before, or should mention the starting running backs for Mel's team were very strong. Aaron Jones, 27 points. Zach Moss, 23 points. Austin Eckler, 14 points before the concussion. Hopefully, we get him back. Patterson, 8.8. Keep an eye on that.
Might not be his last week in the lineup.
Our third highest scoring team of the week was Flea's team. She faced off against Big in third place rematch from last year's playoffs. Flea got the better of Big this time. She kicked his ass this week.
Yep, it was a thorough beating. So
Dak Prescott, almost 30 points on the day. Amari Cooper, the recent acquisition, 30 points on the day. Nice to see that, that pay immediate dividends. Khalil Shakir, 22 points. Sam Darnold continues to just hold down a spot in Flea's lineup every week. 24 points, 4 touchdowns on the day.
Yeah, he's been a revelation. He got banged up in this game. We didn't cover him in the injury report because he's not expected to miss any time. But yeah, he did leave briefly with a knee injury, but he's expected to be okay.
And just as we discussed in the preseason, the strong part of Flea's lineup is her tight end depth, with Brock Wright and Nick Vannett obviously as staples in the NFL for years.
You catch a touchdown as a tight end, you get in the lineup. That's just a rule. That's just how it works in this league.
Two targets, 2 receptions, 9 yards, 1 touchdown, 10.4 points for Vannett.
Yep. The tight end 3 in Tennessee, the blocking tight end. Sometimes when you're blocking tight end, you play near the goal line and you catch a touchdown. And when that happens, you get in the lineup.
Oh, man. Other side of things, let's just go right to the tight end. Zach Ertz and Jordan Akins. Big has like the best tight end room in the league. Well, he's got Ingram and Schultz on the roster, who last year combined for 200 catches. How are these the 4 starting tight ends?
Well, we mentioned in the injury report that McBride and Laporta both got banged up, and those are Big's normal every week tight ends. Instead, we got Jordan Akins and Zach Ertz.
Ertz had a solid game, 5 catches, 38 yards.
This is what he does.
Yeah.
Catches a bunch of short passes and falls down. But you know what? Those points add up in this league.
They do. Big had what for him is a pretty down week, 185. I mean, obviously in the first 2 weeks, that would have been enough to be over the median. This week, he was a little bit under it. But his running backs didn't show up the way that they normally do this week. Not what you expected to see. Jacobs, H&H, both on the bench, Connor on the bench. Just not the scores we're used to seeing from his team. And obviously Mixon on and Walker both out injured right now.
Yeah, for somebody with this much depth and talent at running back, you expect better scores than this. And I would suspect this won't be repeated very often going forward. So, this happens. It's a long season. There's always blips where the stars align and all of your players have down weeks at the same time, and he still put up 185 points even with a bad week. So,
and at some point, we don't know when, he'll get Hawkinson back as well, which will be a nice boost to that lineup.
you finally got T. Higgins back. Didn't have a big game, but he wasn't on a snap restriction, which is nice. He basically played the entire game.
Yeah, it'll take him a little while to get back into the mix and to actually, he missed essentially all of camp as well, right?
Yep.
You can't expect him to come out full speed first game back.
Yep, I would not be worried if I was big, and I don't think he will be. Although he just saw his opponent start trading 2027 picks, so may not be far behind.
So what you're saying is he should trade his 2027 picks for Rico Dowdle.
Exactly.
Got it. All right. I'm just using this as a platform to try and sell Rico Dowdle now. Next week.
As you should.
Next week it'll be someone else. I don't know who. We'll get there though.
Abuse of power.
Would you classify this as power that we have? Because I don't think that's
point
inaccurate.
Of having power if you don't abuse it, right? That's what I've learned.
I think that, that's in the Prince or something like that, right?
I think that's what they say when they swear you in to Congress.
Well, I think that's the Jedi code that they talk about Phantom Menace.
Oh, this is going to get cut now. See, why'd you do that?
You got to tie it in somehow. The more chances I tie it in, the more chances he won't cut it. All right. Our next highest scoring team going over to Judd. Judd put up a 225.32, and he beat JMC, who put up a 173.53. So Judd cleared that median pretty well. JMC, not a bad week. Just, again, same kind of story, just not quite enough.
Yeah, not enough. He had another monster week from Malik Neighbors, who I believe is now the wide receiver 1 in scoring this season, right?
I believe that's correct. Yep. He's number 1 in both PPR and half PPR.
Right.
We have a few bonus stuff for first down, so it's possible that ours is slightly different, but I doubt it.
Yeah, he is the entire offense for the Giants.
You are not wrong.
As he should be, because he's very good.
He's pretty much the only bright spot on the team right now.
Hey, we're going to get to Devin Singletary when we get to my matchup.
That's true. Singletary and Singletary had a high IQ play as well this week. Could have scored another touchdown for your team there. All right, but let's get to this one first. Joe Burrow, 3 touchdowns, 324 yards, 27 points.
Welcome back, Joe Burrow.
About time.
Welcome back. We missed you.
26 points or 27 points from Joe Burrow. Keeping pace, obviously. Andy Dalton, 26 points. Just like everyone expected. Also 3 touchdowns, no picks, 319 yards.
Amazing how good that offense looks with Andy Dalton at quarterback.
It was night and day. Just night and day. Completely different.
Poor Bryce Young.
Poor Panthers fans. They still owe a 2nd-round pick on that trade. For Judd's team, solid days from Alvin Kamara. Alexander Madison is apparently good again. I don't know what happened last year, but
so the problem is he's not it doesn't make any sense. He had 3 carries for 7 yards, but he got a touchdown.
Yep.
They are using him as their goal line back over Zamir White, and he's splitting early down carries with Zamir White, and then he's splitting passing down work with Amir Abdullah, but he continues to score touchdowns. So when you score touchdowns, you make the lineup in this league because it's very deep.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Touchdown and nothing else usually nets, 7 to 10 points. He's at 14. He's got the 3 catches, 37 yards. Even without the touchdown, it's an okay day, but obviously the touchdown makes it a good day and gets him in the lineup.
Right.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, nice to see him bounce back, 24 points. Kate Otten, 7 catches, 17 points at the tight end position. That's a solid one.
He had
Hurst the other one, but
47 yards receiving, but that's apparently 17 points for us.
it's crazy how it goes.
Gotta love tight end
When
scoring.
you look at it on the other side, Gesicki, 4 catches, 47 yards, 13.7 points. It's apparently 47 was the number to beat this week. Who knew?
I wish my tight ends could get 47 yards receiving.
I told you we'll get there. You're the last matchup this week. You should be embarrassed.
I am.
Godwin, Kirk, 20-point days. Garrett Wilson, Najee Harris, solid days in the flex spot. Judd has one of those weeks where outside of Hurst, his lowest score was a 14.35. It's not one where he had any singular breakout players, but everyone was in that 15 to 20 range, or 15 to 25 range.
Yeah, he just had a solid week across the board, and then a couple of good scores, and there you go. You're one of the top scorers.
Mm-hmm. All right, so over to JMC's team. Brock Purdy, almost 30 points on the day, 3 touchdowns. They lost a game that they never should have lost, though.
Yeah.
San Francisco, that is.
That was for some reason the Rams always seem to have the 49ers number.
I think it's a Shanahan McVay thing. I really do.
They do it every year. They spring an upset every season on the 49ers somehow, some way.
Divisional games are just strange. Like even the Brady Patriots would lose to the terrible Dolphins like every year.
Right. Yeah.
I don't like betting divisional games when I bet stuff, but you always know there's going to be something crazy going on.
Yep.
I feel contractually obligated to point out Jonnu Smith, 5.8 points in the lineup again.
Lineup staple.
We
whether he scores points or not.
We need to start incorporating like a soundboard here, and like the first one going on there is Jonnu Smith in the lineup. I don't know what sound it's going to be, but we're getting one. Not a ton of great scores here in this lineup. DJ Moore, almost 19 points. We said Malik Neighbors, 32 points, 8 catches, 78 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's my hero.
Yeah, it's the same. It's going to be the same story every week for JMC unless he kind of makes some more roster moves. He's got one steady quarterback. He's got no running backs, and he's got a bunch of receivers and some holes at tight end. So if he gets some just baseline games there at running back and tight end, which he didn't really get this week, only one of the 4 was in double digits. And then he didn't get another good quarterback score. Levis was in there, but 12 points. At least he didn't have another back-breaking, head-scratching turnover. But again, he just didn't do enough to get him past Malik Willis, which is not great.
Not great for him or for the organization.
Right.
Levis is trending in the right direction. His score has gone up every week. We're 6.68, 11.23, 12.1. We're going in the right direction.
I didn't see his coach crying on the podium talking about him, so that's
yelling
good.
at him on the field.
Right.
Him whatever it was.
So we're going in the right direction. He certainly flashes. He makes plays every week that make you think that he can do it.
Yeah, he's clearly got the arm for it. It's just, can we clean up basically everything else?
Right, and he just doesn't have the depth anywhere else to kind of cover down weeks from guys.
All right, our next highest scoring team was Criddle's team. Criddle put up 210.89, and he doubled up Mr. Good News, who put up a 104.22.
Mr. Good News doubled his scoring from last week, so
that's true. He was 54 or something like that. The impressive part of Criddle's week here is that he did it with really bad quarterback scores, which is not a thing that we're going to see from his team often because of who his quarterbacks are. He's got Jalen Hurts, who put up 9.12, and CJ Stroud, who put up 8.8, both in his lineup. And he still put up a 210.
It's not going to be many weeks when both of these guys fail to break double-digit fantasy points.
Yeah. Saquon Barkley, 35 points. I miss him. It pains me to see this happening in Philadelphia.
Good. Another multi-touchdown effort. He's so good.
He is. That he essentially won the game for them single-handedly.
Right. Similarly to week 1. And he had the game in his hands week 2 as well.
Again, this pains me to say he's basically saving the Eagles season every week right now.
He's been worth every penny that they paid him,
Yeah.
and worth every penny that Criddle gave up to trade for him.
It's true. So a 34.85 for Barkley, and also with a 30-point day, Chuba Hubbard. Rising tide lifts all ships in Carolina, I guess.
Andy Dalton effect.
Yeah.
You can actually run the ball when you're winning and moving down the field.
Or even just have a threat of anything else happening.
When your offense doesn't go 3 and out every drive, you're going to get some points.
So
the biggest thing for Criddle was his he got some wide receiver scores this week.
Yeah, he did.
That's been a bugaboo all season. But Tutu Atwell out of nowhere for the wide receiver 1 spot.
Well, there's no one left healthy in Los Angeles. They're down to Tutu Atwell and a bunch of rookies.
People were putting bets thinking it was going to be, Tyler Johnson or Demarcus Robinson or Jordan Whittington, and then here comes Tutu Atwell. It's too bad
5 targets, 4 catches, 93 yards, solid day.
It's too bad that Tutu train play didn't work. Would have been fun to watch him complete that pass.
Yeah, 0 for 1 completion. I love it when they let the receivers throw. I really do.
I liked it that they called it the Tutu train play.
I want to know who came up with that. Was it him or one of the other guys?
Oh, it's McVay, 100%.
Yeah, that sounds like something McVay.
He's just sitting in his beach house cackling. He's like, I got one for Shanny.
All right, so moving down a little bit, let's discuss the tight ends in this matchup. 3 of them between 6 and 7 points. Johnny Munt, Kylan Granson for Mr. Good News, Will Dissly for Criddle, and also Dallas Goedert, 170 yards, 10 catches.
Just casually dropping 37 points from the tight end position. All it took was all of the receivers to get hurt before they realized that, hey, we have Dallas Goedert on this team as well.
Well, that guy
Maybe we should throw him the ball. 10 catches on 11 targets for 170 yards. About time. Welcome to the season, Dallas Goedert.
How is it that Jalen Hurts has 9 points on the day and his primary pass catcher has 37?
Because
imagine if this was the other way and he was facing Dallas Goedert, and every time Jalen Hurts completed the pass, he had to go through this pain.
Yeah, it's because we play in an insane league with ridiculous tight end scoring.
That's true.
He had 37 points without scoring a touchdown.
Yeah. The stat line is pretty fantastic. Just 10 catches, 170 yards, and 5 first downs.
That's why Criddle scored so many points this week, because he has a bunch of Eagles not named Jalen Hurts.
Right now, Dallas Goedert is the tight end 1 on the season.
On the strength of 1 week.
On the strength of that one game.
This is like the Evan Ingram game when he had 50 plus points.
Yeah.
He went from irrelevant to like tight end 3 overall.
And that was like a third of his points for that season too. Other good scores in the lineups here. Lazard for Mr. Good News continues to put up numbers. Someone go trade for Alan Lazard, please. I'm
How
sure
about the running
Mr. Good
backs?
News will give you a productive player at a reasonable price.
He got some good running back scores this week. Bucky Irving every week has been outproducing Rachaad White on the ground.
True.
It is a matter of time before he becomes the primary early down back.
Yep. I think that he's probably going to want to hold on to Irving for at least a little bit until he actually takes over that job.
Yeah, you can't watch both of them and say that Rachaad White deserves more carries than Bucky Irving at this point.
No, but we knew that White was an elite pass catcher, no doubt, but not terribly efficient on the ground.
And he somehow looks even worse than he ever has this year.
Yeah, no.
And we can't blame the line anymore because Bucky Irving looks great.
Not a ton of players of note in Mr. Good News lineup. I guess solid day from Turpin. uh,
Caught a rogue touchdown as he does every
Yeah.
once in a while.
yeah, you're gonna get lucky every now and again. Emmanuel Wilson appears to be the backup to own in Green Bay.
I mean, as long as Marshawn Lloyd is out,
Yeah.
yeah, Wilson looked explosive on his touches. You got to think he's earned more going forward. Maybe they don't want to give Josh Jacobs 50 carries a game.
Probably not. They probably shouldn't.
Well, I assume when Jordan Love comes back, that will throw more than 10 times a game. So
One would imagine.
we'll see what kind of role there is for Wilson going forward.
A good handcuff to own, though.
Yeah, definitely look good in his touches.
All right. Only other thing I want to mention before we go. Saubert in the lineup after that blockbuster trade. 7.6 points in the flex spot for Criddle. So
Yeah, he only had 2 targets, but he made them count.
he immediately gets a return for Kenny McIntosh. All right, we've got one more matchup to discuss, but I don't think we really need to.
Yeah, that's fine with me. We can skip this last one.
Our
Not a-
final matchup. I don't know what highest scoring team you were, like 8th or 9th, something like that.
Not
I'm not even giving you the dignity of looking it up.
It
You,
was not a proud win this week. I almost didn't win.
yeah,
It was the closest matchup of the week.
it was closer. Again, let's say the same thing that it was when you and I played. It's closer than it should have been. This is not your strongest title defense season that I've ever seen. This is what year did the Mavs win when then they decided that they weren't going to bring back any of the role players the next season? Was it like 2011, something like that? I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, you beat Benign Rug's team. You put up a 179.22. Rug put up a 160.11. You were both under the median score this week. So you go 1-1. Unfortunately for Rug, he goes 0-2. He drops to 0-6. I mean, he kind of knew this was the season he was in for, but
Right.
but for his team, good signs, because apparently Jaden Daniels has figured out the NFL.
Yeah, he has been getting better every week.
Yeah, and he looked very good Monday night.
It's good to see.
Good decision making, good throws, good pacing, nice scrambling. I was very impressed.
His other young star, Marvin Harrison,
Other
not
scores on
quite
his
the
team.
big explosion last week, but another solid game for him.
5 catches, 11 targets, though. They are trying to feed him the ball. They're looking
They
his
should.
way often and designing plays for him.
He's their best receiver. They should do that.
As he gets his feet under him a little bit more, I feel like that'll every week tick up just a little bit until we get like the full experience. All right, on your side of things, I guess we should talk about your team a little bit. You did win the matchup. Your quarterbacks, Goff and Minshew. Minshew continues his streak of being in the lineup. We like to see it. Devin Singletary, 20-point day. Jahmyr Gibbs, 17-point day. We've talked about how strong your running backs are.
Devin Singletary is my best player. It's been a good season so far.
He's been very productive. He's currently,
I don't know.
he's currently a high-end running back too.
The final stats are a little misleading. He broke a 40-yard run that made up for 90% of his yards in this game right at the end. But I'll take it. I'll take the production.
Yeah. He got into the end zone. Could have had another one on that run if he didn't just stop.
Yeah. He did the smart thing, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah.
For fantasy.
Yep. Shout out Todd Gurley, making people cry week after week when that was happening. The good news for you is that your receivers have started to wake up just a little bit, at least some of them. Olave, 24 points. Justin Jefferson, 24 points. The bad news for you is that your tight ends have fallen asleep. That
What do you mean? It was the best week of the season for Travis Kelce. He finally broke double digits.
You ruined it. I was going to say it fell asleep because they're all so old. Kelce finally caught more than one pass. I don't know. It's been a tough start to the season for him.
He hasn't broken 35 yards yet. So it's been but somehow he's been better than Mark Andrews this year.
which is damning with faint praise. Mark Andrews, how many points he scored this week?
0.
0 catches, 1 target. Not a great stat line.
He played less snaps than Charlie Collard. That's
Golar had a nice play down the sideline, though. That was
great. Why is Mark Andrews playing less snaps than Charlie Collard? That's a problem. This is not a team that's full of playmakers. You should probably get Andrews and Isaiah Likely involved in the passing offense.
This is true. Didn't you have Kolar on your practice squad for 2 years?
He is. He's still on my practice squad. He's been there for 10 seasons.
All right, there you go. 5.25 points on the practice squad. You just take him off the practice squad.
He would have been in my starting lineup this week had he not been on my practice squad.
Would have been your starting tight end too over Chigakonkwo, who had 2 catches for 15 yards, and somehow that nets 5 points in our league. What is this scoring? Mel, what have you subjected all of us to?
Yeah, it wasn't a great week for my team. A lot of down scores. We still haven't seen a breakout from Ayuk. Apparently, Juwan Jennings stole all of the yards and touchdowns this week.
Yep.
CeeDee Lamb hasn't really had a big week yet. And yeah, Anthony Richardson, he had a good week 1, and the last 2 weeks have been pretty poor.
His completion percentage is hanging out at around 50% still. You really kind of want to see that get better, and it's just not.
He has problems in the short and intermediate area with inaccuracies.
Well, look at this. Week 1, 9 of 19. Week 2, 17 of 34. And week 3, 10 of 20. He's basically 50% across the board there. 50% is not going to cut it.
Yeah, not great. So far, that trade has been a bust for both of us.
Yeah. I feel like if it continues in this direction, it's likely to work out better for me in future years.
Right.
But better for you in this year.
I'm not sure about that. How many weeks has Richardson outscored Herbert? 1?
Well, the first week for sure, and I don't think after that. But does Herbert play all that much longer at this rate?
Right.
Anyway, on the other side of things, Jeremy Ruckert and Hunter Henry at the tight end position for Rugg, 6.0 for Ruckert and 4.9 for Henry. Man, we need better tight ends. Just in general.
Hunter Henry,
not any specific person, just the NFL.
What happened to the Hunter Henry magic?
It only works in the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah, it was a rough week for both teams.
Yep.
Which is why we're both under the median.
That's true. The Pro Football Focus's number 1 wide receiver, Jalen Naylor, in the lineup again, keeps catching touchdowns.
Yep, until Jordan Addison comes back. And even after Addison gets back, they may find a role for him. He's been very productive. Certainly a nice guy to have on your bench.
I was going to say he's been in the fantasy lineup, I think, at least 2 or 3 times. I think he's been in every week. I don't know. He's had a good year so far, especially considering the fact that you could have grabbed him off of waivers pretty much anytime.
Right. Anytime in the last several years.
So with that in mind, all right. I think that about brings us to the end of the matchups here. Anything you want to touch on?
No, let's not talk about this ever again.
All right.
On to week 4.
Let's take a look at our favorite segment here, our percentage chance to make the playoffs, our Dynasty Daddy rankings. We have a new clubhouse leader at our top percentage chance to make the playoffs. It's 98% for Flinch.
Deservedly so. He's 6-0.
Only 6-0 team.
Just demolished everybody this week.
Yeah. And he was the number 2 scoring team last week. He's been very, very consistent so far this season.
Yep.
Our next highest percentage chance is Big at 96% chance. So just a slight drop off there. Solid week for most teams, but Big did get those 2 losses. So he was 4-0 before this. It doesn't really affect his playoff chances that much, but it does drop him below Flitch. Brings him back to the pack a little bit.
Yeah, we've seen the same teams here and the same basic tiers that we've seen.
Yeah. It's really
the couple of weeks and through the off-season previews.
Yeah. The top 5 are basically in their own tier for actual odds to make the playoffs, all between 89 and 98%. It's Flinch, then Big. Flea is at 94. You're at 92. Mel's at 89. We have really seen very little variation here. Some order shuffling as we've gone along, and I'm sure we'll see more as, guys have good and bad weeks. But right now, all of these teams projected between 17 and 19 wins by Dynasty Daddy. And that's probably what we're going to get again.
Yeah, we currently have 6 teams at 4-2 and 1 team at 6-0. So
after Mel's team at that 89%, there's the drop off. We have 2 teams in that next tier. It's Criddle at 60% and Judd at 50%. Criddle's 4-2 right now. Judd is 3-3. They're both projected to finish 15 and 13 according to this. I'm sure at some point we'll see someone gain the upper hand here, but right now it's early on. There's no real clear clubhouse leader.
Yeah, both had good weeks this week. Both went 2-0. Judd really needed it because he was
he was 1-3 before.
He was having some bad matchup luck.
Yeah.
Coming into this week.
On to the non-contending tier. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that because Georgia Mike is 4-2. He's only got that 12% chance according to Dynasty Daddy, but he's 4-2 right now. He continues on that pace. He's gonna, creep up every week.
He is currently in the playoff race.
Yep.
4-2. He's one of those 6 4-2 teams.
If the league ended today, he'd be the first team out, which he's only 30 points off pace for that number 6 seed, and he's got the same record. So it's not like he's fallen that far back. 30 points is 10 points a week. That's relatively easy to make up with a couple additions if he chooses to go that way.
Yeah, that's like one tight end catching 3 passes for 20 yards.
After that, we see JMC at 7% chance. JMC 2-4 right now. This is what we expect after he sold off a couple pieces.
Yep, we saw kind of the range of outcomes for him last week. He had a big week. This week was a little bit shy of that, but he's going to kind of live in that range. There's a chance he can sneak wins every week. He'll probably be below the median most weeks, but he's going to kind of hang around on the fringes all season. And there's always opportunities for him to shake up his roster.
Yeah. After JMC, my team at 2%. We've talked about it. I've been the number 7 scoring team every week. It's probably going to continue somewhere in that range. It's not really any playoff chances, but I'll get a win here and there.
Yep. Yeah, you're a little bit above these bottom 2 and even the bottom 1 is kind of in the tier of their own. So.
Yeah, Benign Rug, just below me, less than 1% chance according to Dynasty Daddy. He started 0-6. At some point, he'll pick up a win or two. His team is not going to go winless.
Yeah, probably when he plays Mr. Good News.
Sure, but we do. I meant like he'll have a week over the median. He'll have a week where he plays me and I have a down week, or not even a down week. Just he plays me and his team has slightly better, or he plays. And I don't want to call anybody in out, so I'm going to call you out. He plays you, and you have a down week. And
you almost beat me this week.
Yeah, exactly.
That was a close matchup.
What I'm saying, he'll get a few here and there. And then
he's got a lot more talent on this team than he had last year. So he's definitely capable of hitting a spike week in the right week.
Absolutely. And obviously last on the list, the rebuilder, Mr. Good News, less than 1% chance. He's 0-6. He's probably not going to win a game.
Yeah, that's a 0% chance.
Yeah. All right. That gets us updated on the percentage chance to make the playoffs.
And that's it. Week 3 is in the books.
I liked the double Monday Night Football. I know a lot of people complained about it, but I enjoyed it.
I can't say anything because I'm on the West Coast, so the games are at normal times for me. But I guess
Monday
I guess
evening football.
I guess they overlapped, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been, like a 10 p.m. start on the East Coast.
Well, they did that a while back where they had
Yeah.
the first week of the season, they had, like Raiders, Chargers or something like that. I think it was week one. I liked that. It was a 10 o'clock start. Like, listen, if you're a Raiders or Chargers fan, sorry. Living on the East Coast, like, sorry, you're going to miss this one. Or maybe you're not. But I didn't mind the 10 o'clock Monday night for the double.
This is the reason that the East Coast bias exists, because when the games
everyone else hates it.
Start at 10 p.m. and they're over at 1 or 2 in the morning on a weekday, people aren't going to watch them.
I enjoy the late start NBA games because when I'm done with everything else for the night, I can throw on the fourth quarter of whatever, Lakers Kings, and catch something entertaining.
You also don't sleep.
I sleep plenty. I really hope it picked that up. My wife just laughed in the other room.
3 to 4 hours a night is not plenty.
All right, well, that does it. We'll be back next week to recap week 4. I've said every week we need more trades. First week we had 1. Next week we had 2. This week we had 3. I guess keep going in that direction, everyone.
We're due for 4 trades.
We'll get there eventually. We'll catch everybody next week. And until then,
see you in the league chat.